Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time. It is showcase season. And to celebrate showcase season, we have the inimitable Drew Locascio with us. Also, here's my co host, David Bentley. And we are stoked to talk about Prep Baseball Report and Drew's role at PBR, which is also celebrating its 20th anniversary this year.
Trendsetter, whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals, hit it dead center, hit it dead center.
I had completely bricked on that until I saw Dunk talking about it with you and the boys the other day.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for having me on. David, it's good to meet you.
Yes.
And Ben, I know we've known each other a long time.
20 years almost, man.
Yeah, ever since I got into the coaching world, I'll never forget going over to one of those events you would put on in that Peoria area. I think Skylar would drag me over there right when I had started at Danville or something, and got to know you and the impact that you've made on that Central Illinois region and everything you've done for those student athletes and those baseball players. And I know it continues. I know that's a huge passion for you. So when you asked me to jump on the podcast, I thought it'd be a great opportunity, and also just to get to connect with you again. It's
awesome.
It's too long. So yeah, thanks.
I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah.
I believe at that first showcase, you were dog cussing me for getting Luke Luchetti from you.
Potentially, I remember that name being one I wanted for sure, and then we had to face him twice, 2 years.
It's all right. You snuck over to Williamsfield and stole those brothers from me.
Well, the one guy that I remember from those events, thinking he was a good player, had no idea he would turn into the guy he was Micah McCoy.
You mean Mason?
Mason McCoy, because Mike's older brother, Mason McCoy, was like a sophomore at the time, with some effort in the swing, like had a little grunt going, but I remember him being a really good player, and seeing kind of what he did was really cool coming out of that Peoria area.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, thinking back on 20 years with PBR, like it's crazy that it's been around for 20 years. And I was telling Dunk when we were on our little call on our podcast, the fact that I've now been here for 10, Ben, crazy, for half of the lifespan of Prep Baseball Report. So I feel blessed. I love what I do, and get to build relationships with guys like you. And I'm excited to do this.
Dude, you've absolutely killed it. To start, I want to give the folks a chance to get to know you a little bit. Give us some of your backstory here, starting on the mean streets of Naperville.
Woo. Do you want like the full story? Because you probably don't know it.
Hit me.
Okay.
Start at kindergarten.
All right. Well, starting in kindergarten, let's see. I was born and raised in St. Louis until I was 6, and then I moved to the Chicagoland area. But no, my dad was a big baseball guy. He grew up in Arlington Heights, played for Lloyd Meyer, Legion Ball up there, and then went to Southern Illinois and played for Itch Jones down there in the 70s, played in the College World Series.
Very cool.
He always kind of raised me, I feel like, to be a baseball guy, to be a coach. I think that's always what he wanted, to do in his life, but got into the business world and got his coaching itch just from coaching me as a youngster. But I played baseball until my sophomore year of high school, Ben, and got the itch to play golf. So I actually gave up playing baseball. I didn't play varsity baseball in high school.
Really?
So for all you youngsters out there, like, man, it's this world and like this life is a long, winding journey.
True story.
And we all kind of find our way at some point. But I got really into golf. I mean, I still love golf. It's definitely one of my passions. But just proceeded to play high school golf. I was a basketball player as well, and then went to Southern Illinois to follow in my dad's footsteps. I kind of always had that since I was a youngster, and tried to walk on the golf team. Was nowhere near good enough. Like those guys they're stupid good. But I was a delusional high school guy and loved it. And long story short with that, went to Southern Illinois for 2 years, ended up just kind of going to school. Like, what am I doing? I was going to be a PE teacher, but I had always played sports my whole life, and ended up like one fall being like, I think I was playing 12-inch softball. and
Nice.
like I was got the itch back. I'm like, what am I doing? Like I need to do something with baseball. So I tried to work out. My dad had a buddy down in Carbondale, Frank Hunsacker. Like shout out to you because he would take me to a local field and hit me ground balls and throw me BP. Tried out for Southern, did not make the team, but Coach Callahan was the head coach at the time for
God bless Big Shoots.
yeah. So a legend down there. But he was kind enough to at least like give me encouraging words like, hey, like if you want us to reach out to somebody else, we would. Um, Ended up emailing a whole bunch of schools. My parents did a lot of the legwork and ended up getting a call from Indiana Southeast. Coach Schultz over there. Went over, had a workout, and ended up just taking a shot in the dark and transferred to Indiana Southeast at the break of my junior year. Didn't play much that first year at Indiana Southeast. And then my second year there, ended up playing shortstop. And then my final year there, which is my fifth year in college, my senior year playing ball, ended up being a team captain, made all conference. And after school, I was like, all right, like, what am I going to do? Loved baseball, so I got into coaching. I took a volunteer job at Eastern Illinois with Coach Schmitz, Jim
The
Schmitz.
alma mater.
Took a chance on me, and little did I know at the time that I'd walk into a position where not only did I get to learn from a great hitting coach and Jim Schmitz and just a absolute competitor, knew a ton about the game, but I got to coach
True story.
with a month, for a month with Sean Lyons before he
Yep.
went over to Bradley. So I got
Another great hitting coach.
and then now he's the head coach at SIUE, and then Skylar Mead was the other assistant there. So I got to know Skylar really well. Now he's the head coach at Troy. After that, I spent a couple years in Danville at Danville Area Community College as an assistant coach, recruiting coordinator, and got to coach for Tim Bunton, who I think is one of the best baseball guys in the Midwest that not enough people know about.
Not in the country that not enough people know about.
I agree. I can't tell you how many good things and how many things I learned from him, and not even, yes, the baseball side of things, but how to manage people, how to treat people, how he treated me, the freedom he gave me, and how it's just I can't even tell you the amount of life lessons that I learned from that guy. And then I spent a year at Purdue as an assistant, and then this job opened up in 2015, and thank goodness I knew Skylar Mead because I think he put in a good word with Sean Duncan, and the rest is history. And here I am at PBR-Illinois, Prep Baseball Illinois, and couldn't be luckier. And yeah, I'm in a good spot. So you got the long story. I don't know how many people have gotten that story before. So sorry,
I love it.
Boring one, but
no, that's there is no boring in that whatsoever.
Yeah.
You can actually relate. Mr. Bentley here took a similar path.
It was almost the reverse. Yeah. So I played at Monmouth College and then transferred to SIU in 97.
Okay.
And I actually also, this was like the dawn of Al Gore's internet. And I emailed Coach Cal in 97 in the summer, I think. And I'm like, hey, I'm transferring in, thinking about walking on or trying out, whatever you want to call it. And he was just so just generous. And like, he could have been, for one, he could have just deleted the email.
Yeah, not even gotten back to you.
Right. But he was like back and forth. Okay, here's the tryout and whatever. And I never made it to the tryout because I got down there and started having fun. And I think the tryout back then was like in early October. And so that was like 7 weeks into the year. And I never made it there. But I loved Carbondale. I really appreciated how Coach Cal was so just open and to just random people, reaching out saying, hey, I played here, whatever. I'm thinking about coming down there. But yeah, I loved it down there. I don't know how, what you did as far as recreation besides the fun stuff, but I mean, the National Forest, the fishing, there's so much to do.
I was going to say,
tropics. It snowed like once when I was there.
Well, in the summers, I spent one summer down there, and it was one of the hottest summers of my life. It's a different
and those concrete dugouts at SIU Field are not great.
No, you don't get
that weather
airflow going through there.
No, thank God they replaced those.
No, and I don't blame you for, I mean, going to Carbondale, it's easy to get lost in that social life, and it's a beautiful area. And you mentioned it, like Giant City Park, I believe is what it's called, and like the Spillwell over there, the
Yeah,
Spillway
the
over at Lake
Spillway,
Kincaid or something like that. And
Shawnee
I worked,
National Forest. Yeah.
yeah, I worked at a golf course down in McCanda, it was Stone Creek at the time. I think it just changed names, but no, I loved it down there. It was hard to leave, but the itch to get back playing.
Oh, absolutely. I love the story. I worked at Giant City Lodge. You remember that lodge that had that huge grand room where like a bunch of presidents would come to visit? I was like a bus boy there.
Well, I didn't know
Outstanding.
presidents went to visit down there, but
Oh
I know what
yeah.
you're talking about. Okay,
Yes, Clinton stayed there. There was a couple others that had stayed there.
nice.
Well, that is fascinating. And actually, I was shocked when I was going. I pulled up your bio to send to Dave, and I was like, "I'll be darned, he was a grenadier. He was at IU Southeast,
Yeah.
and that is another criminally underrated program in the Midwest. Like that is a perennial top 25 NAI program that a lot of kids I think go, oh, it's NAI, but that's some good ball down there.
Well, that's a tremendous call out by you. I preach it to a lot of these players, like don't get so enamored with the Roman numeral after division. Like, and a lot of them don't even know what NAIA is.
No,
But when we went down there, like, we were kind of at the infancy stages of the success that they've now
yeah,
had. And Ben Real, he was
yeah,
he was the guy that took over the program my senior year, and just had a vision. And he was a grinder. I mean, the scholarship situation there is not great. It may have changed now. He didn't care. Like he fixed the facility. He made the park into a really beautiful park. Did it for a while, got them to the College World Series, which was awesome to see. And like you said, now they've kind of gotten that track record, that respect to where they're getting the preseason Power 25 rankings and stuff like that. Now Ben Real just got the head coaching job at Bellarmine.
that's what I was going to say. Bellarmine,
Yeah.
yeah,
So happy for
absolutely.
him. A great, I mean, you want to talk about somebody that had my back and believed in me. And I mean, I owe him the world, like I do Sean Duncan, like I do Jim Schmitz. There's so many people to thank in this baseball world, but Ben Real is definitely one of them.
Nice, nice. Yeah, Ben's a good dude, and I was thrilled to see he got that job at Bellarmine. That's another tough place, but there's nobody better suited for it.
You couldn't have said it any better. Yeah. Like he's
So
not going to care about the limitations if there are.
no,
Yeah.
no,
All he cares about is what can he do. So
he fully plans on going across town and beating Louisville.
there
Like
you go.
that's, I mean,
Yep.
I guarantee it. Like that's just you might as well mark it in his planner.
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
I mean, that's what it takes, right, Ben? Like to succeed at a school that maybe doesn't have all the bells and whistles. Like you got to be so over the top and so aggressive and outwork people. It's not just going to
yeah,
happen. So I'm excited to see what happens down there.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, Dave, why don't you jump in here?
Yeah.
You had a pretty good question to get us rolling here.
So I've listened to a few of your podcasts, Drew, and you've
Okay.
talked a couple times. Everybody wants to know about the PBR ranking process. And I've
Yeah.
heard you explain, the indicators, the measurables you look at, peripheral stuff like somebody's character. You talked about getting a sense of whether a guy loves the game right away. It's just palpable. And you talked a lot about, look, we want to see guys over and over to get a good look. Maybe they had a bad day. You don't want to make assumptions. But my question was more about the formatting of you and your crew deciding what the rankings are. Is it more like March Madness Selection Committee roundtable, or is it more like 5 ESPN fantasy baseball analysts making their own top 250, and then you just combine them together and make an average? Is that, out of those two options, what is it a combination, or is it more one or the other?
So first off, the rankings are the hardest thing that we do. And with it, I mean, it is a lose-lose battle. Like,
You get calls from travel
nobody's ever
coaches
happy with
telling
the
you
ranking.
misranked a kid. Yeah, those
So
guys are jerks.
we sign up for that. I get it. I know it. Having to put a number on a kid is something I'm never comfortable doing. Especially in today's day and age, it's a very fragile society with social media and just mental health. So I don't take it lightly at all. And with that, like I feel like it's a very um strenuous process and it's changed over the years. So when I first started, you know, our crew was not nearly as big. So when you talk about like, hey, how are the rankings done? Well, shoot, at first it was like, Sean Duncan, he knew the players way better than I did. So then I would go see games and we would collaborate on it, move guys up and down, have our own ranking on what we're grading these guys out at. And it's not a 20/80 scale like a pro scale. This is our own prep baseball scale that we use that fits more of like, hey, average high school player. He wouldn't be a 20 on that pro scale. Like he fits in a different number versus, average high school player, above average high school player, a guy that we think could play low level college. And then start climbing up the list to like, okay, is this guy an SEC guy, draft guy, so on and so forth, and putting these numbers on them. Um, and from there, color coding guys, when we see them, it is a always changing, always moving list. It's not a stationary list. Guys get better and guys get worse, and guys stay the same. And if guys stay the same, like they're getting worse. So, that's what I don't think enough kids realize, and that's what makes it so hard with the ranking is when they're young, we don't rank a lot of guys because we don't know everybody. They're not all playing varsity baseball. Like we're not
Right.
seeing them in the spring. We're not collecting these hundreds of players in our database. So early on, it's these guys that we feel really confident about. And then as they get older, it gets harder to stay up towards the top of the list simply because we see more guys and more guys may get graded out at a higher level. It doesn't mean that you've gone down. Your grade may stay the same, but shoot, I saw four guys in Peoria last week at a high school game and maybe their grade graded out a little higher than you. So they've got to slot in higher than you. But as far as like getting back to your original process question, um, to the point we're at now, like our crew, our staff that's going out to games, they have full autonomy to comment, color code, slide guys, move guys. And then when it comes to rankings time, it's like, okay, I see you moved whoever it may be, Ryan Shaffnet. I see you moved Ryan Shaffnet up here. You got him green, or hey, you made this comment on him. Like, what do we have on him? Why is he going here? Um, and then it's a collaborative conversation. That's
Yeah.
really we're having conversations on players. When did we see him? What was the look? What were the conditions? Who were they facing? Was he coming off an injury? Was he full go? Was he also playing shortstop the day before? Just all because every environment, every situation is different with these players, and how we view a guy from Southern Illinois, Central Illinois versus a guy in Chicago, maybe a guy that's had the seasoning, he's been a one sport guy since his eighth grade year versus that guy at Dunlap who's playing three sports. Um, those guys tend to have a higher ceiling, because they haven't dedicated all their time into the baseball.
Are you
So
playing like the Billy Bean role of just sort of, I guess what my question is more
yeah,
about, you've got people, other scouts. You're the scouting director. So I look at you as, at least in Illinois, the Billy Bean, because we're going back to Moneyball here. And you're screaming, we can't replace Giambi, boys. But honestly, like I'm assuming that the other scouts are saying, Drew, I moved Ryan Shaffnet to 39. Do you agree? Is it kind of that kind of conversation?
totally.
Okay.
Yeah, and because they're moving a guy that maybe they don't have as much knowledge on, moving him to 39, who's right behind a guy or right ahead of a guy that maybe I have seen a bunch for four
Right.
years. So yeah, okay, this is what you had on Shaftnet. He was 88, 90. It's, this frame, he's throwing this change up. Does that have a higher value? Is he a
Yeah.
starter? Starter versus reliever. So yes, that's definitely how it's happening. And it's, hey, here's what you have on him, but here's kind of what I had on the guy at 40. I think the guy at 40 probably warrants still being ahead of this guy. Like,
Got it.
let's
And
see
then
what happens.
a third person could chime in and be like, well, don't forget at 37, we've got this, and I think he's better than Shaffnet and this other player. Is that kind of how it
100%.
collaborative kind of
One,
argument back and
yes.
forth? Yeah.
Yeah, and we're always evaluating because like they get so caught up with the number, right? But the way that I think anybody needs to look at it is like put them in a bucket. Like one through the top 1 through 25, you could probably have that in any order you
Right.
freaking want. Like who cares if a kid is 24 versus 18? We think you're freaking good. Like we think you're really good. And then from 25 to 50, like the 26th guy could be worse than the 49th guy, but maybe the two looks just didn't play out to be
Yeah.
the greatest looks. Maybe that 49th guy just had a tough day. So I think it's more of like the bucket you're in. Here's what we think of you. Like, are you better than the guy at 43? Maybe. Like, so it is not a perfect science. It is not a spreadsheet of, hey, here's all the measurables that these guys put up, and whoever ran the fastest and threw the hardest and put up the best exit velocity needs to be ranked here and here and here. I mean, yeah, do tools matter? Yes. Do they play a part in the rank? Sure, you have to have tools to be a high level prospect, but it goes into a much larger kind of piece of the puzzle. Like, what kind of swing do you have? How much effort does it take you to get to those, tools that you have, all that kind of stuff.
I think the rankings are fascinating, and I've heard you talk about them before. That's why I had to ask. And not to mention, our last episode that'll come out later, Diggle and I did a sort of a challenge that say, hey, we're going to talk about some 2026s that are not top 50 that maybe not everybody heard about. And I found a lot of them, like you said, from 50 to even 150. You
Totally.
see some video, you're like, he could be even higher. And I think the bucket explanation you gave really makes sense to me. It helps clarify in my mind how you guys do that.
And it's a lot of conversations. It really is. Like, I I want people to understand that this isn't oh, I like this guy, I'm gonna put him at 42 and call it a day. Like we are cross-checking each other and we're calling each other out. And if he said he saw this guy good, well, I'm gonna tell you when I saw him bad, or I'm gonna tell you what I didn't like, or I'm gonna tell you, hey, this is when he hit the ball back to the pitcher, he didn't even make it down to first base and he was peeling off towards the dugout. Like those things also then play into it. And I will never sit here and say that we are spot on with the rankings. Like that is our goal is to get it as correct as we could possibly get it with the information that we have. And that's the other thing is we have to see you. If we've never seen
Yeah.
you, how can we evaluate you if we've never seen you? So,
Yeah.
some of that is on us to get out and go watch high school games, go watch summer games. And I think we've in the last couple of years done it at a higher level than we ever have. And there's going to be no slowing down with that. Like we understand how important that is because also like a showcase guy versus a game guy. I wasn't a showcase guy, so you better believe that I understand like that not every kid's, true talents are going to show out taking 10 swings in BP or taking ground balls right where they know the same sequence. Like baseball IQ and being heady and having a good first step and playing the game, like, man, those can elevate a guy's value like crazy. So sorry, I could talk on this all day, and I know
I
I'm
know it's a
veering off of
fascinating topic.
what you asked. Yeah.
With all that being said, Dave does think that my guy Augie Lonis is criminally underrated. All right, that's all I'm going to say.
He's a guy we probably need to look at again, and give a harder look. And hey, if you've got a favorite, like we probably are missing him. I'm not afraid to say it. Like, there's a guy blowing up at Harper Junior College right now, Dominic Jacoby.
Yeah, the Louisville transfer.
Getting draft interest. He was super low ranked out of high school. Like we probably missed on him. Like, we're gonna hit on guy. Hopefully we hit on more guys than we miss on. Augie Lonis. I'm gonna look, I'm gonna have to double check and do some research here and make sure, clearly I got one fan of Augie on this call. So I'm missing something.
I got to give him a shout out. He broke the school deadlift record the other day, 565.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
He is He's putting the no basketball season to good use.
Okay.
So, well, speaking of that, one of the things that I want to talk about is when should a kid go to a PBR showcase? What should they know before going to a PBR showcase?
Great question. I don't think any two kids are the same. I would never say, hey, every kid needs to come at this point or this point or this point or this point. I think the beautiful thing about coming to an event at an early age is you start to build the resume. That's the way I look at a player profile. It is your baseball resume. Any college coach you're going to email out to, whether it's Danville, ICC, Illinois, they're probably going to Google you, right away. And what's going to pop up? It's going to be your prep baseball, whatever other showcase companies are out there that you may have attended an event at, and then your social media. So you're instantly going to get your resume cross-checked. Baseball resume 1, and then social media 2, because social media is the quickest 10 seconds a coach can look. Hey, how does he act on Twitter? And is this even a guy I want to waste 2 seconds on? They'll probably even look at that maybe even before the prep baseball profile. But they're going to look at the profile and they're at least going to get a picture of who you are and kind of the track record or the trend that you're on. And to me, that's the most important part about it, is always being on an upward trend. Anytime you're staying stagnant, getting work, like that's just, you've got to always be getting better, whether it's in baseball or life or what schoolwork or whatever it is. So the earlier, to me, the better. Everybody makes jumps at different times. Coaches want to see that. Hey, when did this guy jump from 74 to 82? And then from 82 to 86, from 86 to 91? How recent was it? How many jumps has he made? How much more is in the tank? Which tools have ticked up? Which tools maybe still need to tick up? So I would always say, to me, obviously, hey, the earlier we see guys, the better, because we're able to then have a history on these guys. And I'm able to track at bats over the years and years and years. And I say track at bats, like if you're good and we see you as a freshman and that like we're gonna make sure we're keying in on you in the summer. Like you become a follow. Like you're not just another guy out there in this huge pot of players in the state of Illinois. You now have been in front of us. We have seen what the swing looks like. We have seen the tools. We have seen the way your body moves. And now we know, like, hey, this freshman, like, he's only running a 7.6 right now, but look at the frame, look at the way he moves. Like, I think this is going to be getting better in a hurry, and we're going to follow him. If you are that 3-sport guy and you can't get out to an event, like, that's okay. You're probably going to pop later. Like, those 3-sport guys, like, everybody takes those jumps at different times. Some guys take it in freshman year. Sometimes it's a junior year. Sometimes it's not till college. So that would be my biggest advice, Ben. And I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but just
no,
as
100%.
possible. I don't think there's any cookie cutter answer to that. I think there's parents and players and families that are freaking bought in 7th grade. And if you are, come to stuff. We've got great stuff that if you're looking for just really cool experiences, like a junior future games, like a Rising Stars games, where we're going to bring the top 2029s this June and bring them all into one spot and play a game and showcase. Like, it's not for everybody. They're not all at that, they're not all locked in at that level at that age. But for those that are, like, come on, we've got a ton of fun stuff going on and things that can get you on the radar. And I think, we may get into like the recruiting and how it's changed and all that. But these big high level programs, like whether they can talk to you until that junior year, September 1 or whatever it is, like they're still going to want to be pinpointing these guys at an early age and get the high level guys. They're going to want to get them into camps. They're going to want to see them. They're going to want to shake their hand. They're going to want to get a feel for the personality, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then what you can expect, I mean, do you want me to get into like at an event, like just like showcase wise?
I think when a lot of people, I think there's a misconception about showcases where it's going to be coaches wall to wall and you're going to get your big break there. And like, when we talk about showcase season in the winter, it's month of February basically. But every coach that you and I know is, on the road playing games somewhere. So it's not, they can't take a Sunday off and go to the max. And what I always tell people is PBR is going to make sure that those coaches know that you ran a 6.6 or threw 94 across the diamond because you guys do such a good job putting that information out there. But I think a lot of folks are thrown out. Well, I've had a lot of people go up there and be like, there weren't any coaches there. And it's like, no, I told you beforehand, like they're either on their way back from somewhere down south or getting ready to go, or, had to take the one Sunday for the family before they're gone for 6 straight months.
No, and that's a great point.
Which is totally different from the summer, by the way, when there will be coaches wall to wall, at your events in June and July.
And that's, I think, why the winter is so important is, hey, these coaches aren't in person there. It's a winter showcase. First off, you're not going to get an offer off a showcase. Like
right.
You may off like an unsigned senior showcase if a school's in need of an arm. Like I think you can kind of see a lot in a bullpen on things you like. You'll take a chance on a guy, but just in general, like you're not going to get offers off a showcase. What I think you should want to get is followed, circled, circled for that spring, for that summer season that you're talking about. So when you go to Grand Park, when you go to Rantoul, when you go to wherever you go, those coaches are like, hey, we're going to see this team, and I know this guy did this in the winter, and he put up these tools, and I love the way the swing works, and Prep Baseball spotlighted him, and hey, he's a left outfielder that runs this and does this. Now I'm going to make sure I see this guy, and I want to watch him play, because what you do on the field is what gets you scholarships. It's what gets you offers. It's not what you do at a showcase. That's what gets you attention. That's what gets you followed. And that's great. That is great. But that is only like that's the start of the, what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So no, coaches, at the unsigned senior, there will be some, but that all is impacted by the roster and the talent of the roster. And it's going to be, mostly smaller schools like you're talking about that aren't on the road that early. But no, to me, it's to put that video, and that's why we take so much pride in our video and our angles and the quality, is to give the college coach the truest picture we can give them without actually having to be there. We're doing athletic testing, we're doing eye testing, we're doing all these other things to try to paint an even fuller picture on this player. Because there are only so many things you can learn from watching 10 swings and, watching 5 ground balls or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And just to be clear, and Drew and I both, obviously we spent time at the college level, but that video is invaluable. You can send me a sheet, a Google sheet of metrics. Go, okay, this kid ran 6.6. We probably ought to go see him. But now you put that video on in there, and you guys, it's been that way since the jump. I mean, shoot, back in the day, Sean had his wife shooting video at some of the early days. God bless Jenny. But, it was just, it's gotten so, like I tell kids, like, that's what you want. You want that piece of video, and I can just got the new iPhone. I can shoot video all day on it. But the way PBR does it is going to make it so much easier for coaches to digest that it's not even funny.
Yeah, we try. I mean, we try, and we have conversations like, hey, what video angles are we missing? Like we've started implementing first base, like receiving from across the infield, because they only get so much. So it's like, how can we make this better for the player to get as much value, for them as possible? And like as a college coach, our write-ups and comments and our rankings, like that is all great, right? But every college coach has an ego. They all think they know what it looks like, and they want to see the video for themselves. They want to, okay. I think the other thing is like our verified numbers. It's great to hear from a high school coach that their sophomores throwing 87, but if it's not verified by our track man, not many people are believing that unless they've got a great relationship with this coach and it's been built years over years over year. So the verified numbers, I think, are huge too. And then being able to see like bat speed with blast and then exit velocities. And so many people get enamored with this peak exit velocity and all that. Like, to me, it's all about the average. Like, I don't
Yes.
care if you have a 90-mile-an-hour exit velocity, an 80-mile-an-hour exit velocity, like your average should be by your peak. Like, don't show me a 102-mile-an-hour exit velocity and then your average is at 84. Like, that's just
Yeah.
telling me you mishit a ton of balls in BP when they're coming right down the middle. Um, so I think that's another like whole misconception, and we see it with infield defense and outfield defense. They're all, I mean, we take one number for outfield defense. Why are you crow hopping 12 times every single out? Like, show us playable actions. Like, I want to know
Yeah.
who can play. Like, who's got bounce, who's got range, who's got actions, who can get rid of it. Like,
One
who's
step and get rid of it, baby.
yeah. So, once again, Ben, I could talk for hours on this.
I love it. You know, I would sit here and do it with you for
But
hours.
I want to eliminate the misconceptions because there are
Yeah.
misconceptions about rankings, about showcases, about a lot of stuff. So the more I can do this and sit down with you and just, hey, this is where I'm sitting, and this is
Yeah.
what we're trying to provide.
And that's what we want to do. We want to educate people. You know,
Yeah.
like there is so much. I feel like people are spending money in all kinds of bad ways today when it comes to the game. And it's really not that hard if you just focus on not necessarily the shiny stuff, but the stuff that is going to help. And I think people get distracted by the shiny stuff, you know, whether it's somebody offering to fly you out to Arizona for a showcase, or hey, we can go to the Dominican Republic or whatever. You know, at the end of the day, there's a better way to spend your money, whether that's going to a PDR showcase, whether that's putting that money towards, you know, a facility membership, you know, whether that's K's or Athletes HQ or whatever. I want to educate people to know what the best practices are in baseball. So I'm glad we're giving you a chance to air that.
Well, and thank you. Yeah, no, and I think when you really start to think about, hey, what events hold value, with what we do, and why come to a winter event as a sophomore, when a coach can't talk to you, or a freshman. Like, I think what we've done with the Illinois State games, to me, is probably the biggest reason. Like, make sure we know who you are so that you could potentially be an invite to that event.
Yes.
Because we're going to go watch you in the spring, we're going to see you in the summer, but that event, that's the one that moves the needle. That's one where the kids come in, they get a showcase, they get 3 games, it's all in one complex, and there's nothing but coaches. And like, that is where coaches are. Like, all the coaches they want to come because they know they're going to knock out 300 players in a 2-day period and get to see if they want to sit on a guy for 3 games and watch every at bat, they're going to be able to do that.
Yep.
They're going to be, and at the same time, see multiple fields. So, like, to me, the Illinois State games is a huge reason, or at least a huge carrot that I think a lot of these players should go for, because it's way more attainable than the future games. Yes,
Yes.
you should want to come to the future games, but in reality, we take 12 position players in the one class, and 12 arms, 11 arms. It's hard. Like, it is
Yeah.
hard. There are good play, like, we left off a lot of good players this past year. Gosh, one that just committed to Eastern Illinois that I love, that it tore me apart having to leave him off. Lucas Simulik, he's a stud
Yeah.
quarterback at Joliet Catholic. He can flat defend at shortstop. It's, man, like, those are hard. So, and he's a great player. So
Yeah.
even great players get left off that. But sorry to just
No, you're fine. That's what I want, man.
yeah.
That's absolutely what we want to educate people. And shoot, it's nice. Dave is one of the reasons I think Dave wanted into this was, because he's got a kid coming up through the ranks, and he's going to be going through this for the next, however many years. And if we can provide that education to more parents, that's even better.
Yeah,
But
Drew, you talked about your dad bringing you along and getting back into coaching. I feel like, and then you talked about yourself, playing golf, but then getting that itch in college to play again. I think coaching my son has brought that itch fully back for me. And boy, it's fun. And I try my best to stay detached and not let him know how, either excited or disappointed I might be on the inside. Cause we've all seen those parents living vicariously, and we're all going to do it, but I try my best to hide. But I got to say, it's so much fun. It's just a lot of fun.
Our oldest is 6, and he's just now kind of within the last year getting into sports. And I have seen exactly what you're talking about with the parents living vicariously through their kids. And I think you bring up a point. Parents do more harm for their kids than they realize.
Yes,
Um,
it's
with
worse
their
than when
act
we
on the
were young,
field.
I think too, Drew and Ben. I think it's way worse than when we were kids. I don't know
Oh,
why.
100%.
I don't know exactly why, but man, it's way worse for sure.
Oh, I can tell you 100% why, because uh, this is an unfortunate side effect, but it's all about the curating of your life. It's about, hey, look at my kid. He's the athlete of the week, or he got mentioned in
Social media,
PBR.
I
Yeah,
think feeds it,
100%.
and the
100%.
one-on-one training, the fact that they're going to, take their little kid and put them through hours of training. I think that's which is a great thing for kids who want to learn to play ball the right way. But I think it could also, it's like Star Wars, it's got a dark side too. You can go too much too early, and then your kids just, they're still kids. They want to have fun. They want to play video games and just,
Well,
act
and
silly.
it it matters. Like these coaches, and I'm even talking pro scouts. I was just talking to one today who was talking about a player that when they text him, the dad calls. At some point that player's got to take the onus on himself and become that. You're not a man in high school, but like you've got to start taking some responsibility of your own recruiting and talking to coaches. And those parents have to teach these young men, these kids coming up through high school, like how to shake a hand, how to look
Yeah.
somebody in the eye, how to earn a spot on the field and not transfer, schools or go to 4 different travel programs so you can be that shortstop and hitting the 3 hole. Face some adversity,
Yeah.
and just yelling at umpires or acting just obnoxious on the field is a big turnoff because they want to know that these kids were raised with some backbone, with some competitiveness, and that's something we look at. I mean, I think you're always looking at a player when you're evaluating a player. You're immediately, what is their floor? How good are they right now? But what's their ceiling going to be? And a lot of what matters on them reaching their ceiling is how they're raised and what makes them tick and who's going to go work for it and who's going to be able to handle failure, because the higher you go up in this game, the harder it's going to get. You're going to be behind better players. You're going to face better competition. You're going to fail more. So it's who's those guys that can battle, and that's why I love football players. I love guys that play these multiple sports, hockey guys. Like those guys are used to compete. So
Yeah.
um
They're,
I
Drew, on
think
this.
parents need to be careful out there.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's funny you say that. So I'm looking for it right now on my phone because I literally just saw it the other day. But Trey Hannum, who played for us at ICC back, he was with McCoy's class, and is now one of the best hitting coaches, I think, probably in the world. Um, he posted something the other day where he literally had to talk to the player's dad about, hey, look, that when your kid makes an out and you get the body language and you get huffy and you're hollering from the stands, like your kid feeds off that.
Yep.
He said, let's try this. Go stand out in left field, or be more positive, whatever you got to do. And lo and behold, the kid's play turned around. And it's just like, I wish we could get more parents to see that,
Yep.
but
No,
anyway,
absolutely. The kids don't need any more pressure put on them,
no, God,
with
no.
the social media world and all that.
Yeah,
They need support.
absolutely. Talk a little, speaking of pressure, talk a little bit about what you're hearing from your coaching buddies about the current state of recruiting. When you were down last year, you and I talked before things kicked off at the Slugger Dome, and you said, I have no doubt that it's harder than ever right now to go Division I than it's ever been before.
Yeah, and
I
that's
think,
continued.
yeah,
It's
100%. So
yeah.
what are you seeing in the evolution of the recruiting process?
Well, from last year to this point now, I mean, I can't even tell you how much has changed from
Mm-hmm.
schools and things getting changed. It's every day something different is getting implemented or, brought up. And I know the
Court
ABC.
rulings.
Yeah, the ABCA just took. I mean, the JUCO ruling with like the football player, I can't remember the name, but where they're not going to hold them against eligibility and all this stuff. So like, who knows where this is going to go? But from right now, absolutely, it's never been harder to play, Division I baseball. I think every level, the competition and the caliber is going to get better. It's going to trickle down to the D2, to the JUCO, to the NAIA. But I'm glad I'm not in the college game right now, Ben. I
This
really
is the whole reason I got back into the college game.
well, it's tough sledding right now, and I think the biggest thing is like in the summer, these guys are so torn on what to go watch. Like a
Yeah,
lot of these high school tournaments that used to be loaded with schools aren't the same as I mean, yes, there's definitely still schools coming there, and there's still schools that are probably looking at recruiting nothing but 2026s right now. But like a lot of these schools don't know, hey, do I need to just be hammering the transfer portal and going to college summer league games every day and finding
yeah,
these little guys and going and watching them and sitting on Synergy and tracking down as many clips of at bats as I can find on a guy that was at Wake Forest or Kentucky who's bouncing out of there. And then you got JUCO guys, and then you've got like just the whole COVID extra year of eligibility, and these guys are playing until they're 24, 25. So if you are lucky enough to get that Division I scholarship, like you better know what you're walking into. You're an 18,
yeah,
19-year-old, young man, and you're playing with grown men.
yeah.
It's
Guys who are the age of your average AA player.
yes. It's basically the high level Division I baseball is becoming low level minor leagues.
100%. That's
So
why they were comfortable getting rid of the minor leagues.
yes, yes. The roster limits I think are good. I
Yeah,
don't think the December having to cut the roster in December is good. I think it needs
that's
to be the beginning of the fall so these kids
yes.
get to the right spot before they're
Yeah,
stuck at
I
a
agree.
school. And I don't know about you guys, but like when I transferred from Southern Illinois to Indiana Southeast, like it was the biggest move of my life. Like it was
Yeah,
not an easy decision. And I see these guys transferring every year, and I'm just like, don't you want some stability? Like, don't you make friends and want to stay? I don't know. It is kind of crazy how it's gone, Ben. But it is tough. It is, I think more so than ever, the guys in high school they have to prove it. Like they have to do it on the field more than they've ever had to. Because in the past, you could see a great looking frame. You could see a guy that, gets down the line in 4-1 and is 92 from the outfield and, maybe has a little rawness in the swing. And you're like, oh, I'm going to walk this guy on. I'm going to teach him how to hit. And by the time he's a junior, like I'm going to dream on this guy and he's going to be in the starting lineup. Like those days are gone. Like
yeah,
dreaming on guys is like they don't have time and they don't have space for that. Like they are going to go for the guys that are proven performers that they know when they come in are going to have the best chance to succeed right away because that's all that they don't have room for the development phase that they used to, which
well,
is
yeah, the roster might be totally different next year.
yes, yes. The more versatile you are defensively now, I think it's helping you more than it ever has. So that is one positive for guys that can play multiple positions because the roster limits are going to be smaller. So the more areas you can help out in, I think the better. Even two-way guys. Um, which being a two-way guy in college, I don't think these guys realize how hard it has been.
Nobody does.
You're a freak if in a good way if you're a
Yes,
two-way guy in college.
that's it,
Um,
it. Everybody wants that role until I tell them like, hey, here's what that entails. Like, you're gonna come in, you're gonna throw at the pitchers in the morning, you're gonna practice in the afternoon. Tomorrow, you're gonna lift in the morning, and then you're gonna throw at the pitchers in the afternoon, and then you're gonna practice.
exactly.
We Dave and I talked a couple weeks ago about guys that were playing two sports like Kyle Beatty at normal, and I forget who the other young man we
Williams,
took.
Jake Williams at
Jake Williams
Princeville.
from Princeville. Yeah, and that if you play college football and college baseball, you have about 3 weeks off in your whole year. You know, so it's just kids need to understand like what they're committing time wise. You're absolutely right.
Yep. So I mean that's what I'm seeing. I don't know if there's anything I missed there, but
No, you're good. That
yeah.
was 100%. All right, I want to close with a little fun. Some trips down memory lane. Uh, Give me your most memorable. It can either be game performances or showcase performances in the last 10 years at PBR.
Okay. Well, First off, I'm 100% gonna miss, some stuff.
Yeah,
So guys
100%.
out there that maybe, think they had the performance I should remember, I apologize, pre-apologize. But there are certainly things that stick out to me. One that I think of right out of the gate is
Love him.
earlier on in me doing this, because I want to say he was like a 2018 grad,
He
maybe.
was. Yeah, it was
Um,
your first year.
yeah, so he was a sophomore at the time, and
Hmm.
we're doing our preseason all state, and you're reaching out to me like, hey, I've got a left-hander, like you need to see this guy. So he comes up to the event. He's from El Paso Gridley, and I he's probably one of my top five, like just favorite arms that I've seen. I
Yeah,
love the way the arm worked. He was spinning it. It was like 84, 86. I just thought the world of this kid. And I remember being like, Ben, send me more of these guys. Like, let's go. You got any more of these guys hiding out down there? And then to just see kind of what he progressed, because he battled injuries. Like I know he had a
yeah,
thing going on for a while in high school that he had to battle with, and then got to
yep.
Illinois and kind of seemed to flourish later on, and now he's in pro ball doing his thing.
He's going to be in the bigs. He got Rule 5 by the Rays.
Fire me up. Let's go.
So yeah, we got to get him. We got to get him rehabbed. But yeah, he's
Okay.
on the big league roster. So
All right.
love it.
Well, that's great to hear, because no, he was definitely one of my favorites, and I'll never forget because I remember like going back and watching the video because I was raving about him, and like showing the raw video to Dunk the next day and all that stuff, just how much I liked him. Breaking down like he kind of had a head whack at the time, but I was like, I don't
Yeah.
care, like I'm in. So that was one. My very first future games, we had Alec Thomas as an underclassman, but
Hmm.
Reed Detmers. It was
Yeah.
Grand Park. It was one of the last years before we moved it down to Lake Point. What the future games really was, what I was walking into. And it was the most dominating performance, Ben. Like it was like
Oh,
he's facing
100%.
junior high hitters, and these are future gamers, like the best hitters in the Midwest that he's carving up. And it was one of those where he might have worked like an immaculate inning. Uh,
Yes.
and we're screaming out on the field, like, hey, one more hitter. Like, we need to
Yes.
this guy show his whole repertoire. Like, all he's done is just blow fastballs, letter high with carry that nobody can touch. So that one
And then he
definitely.
broke out the breaker and was like, "Oh Jesus."
Oh, yeah, he didn't even like have to show that thing off. And when he did, it was, yeah, it's good night. So and just like being able to follow Reed Detmers, kind of his career, and just the
Yeah.
family then, and getting to know Parker and Drew and Chris, his dad, and like
Yeah.
a primo family.
Oh, they're wonderful people.
Yeah, and then seeing, I got a couple notes. You're seeing Gavin Lux and Jerry Kelenic at the Super 60, like they were kind of on a different level. It is interesting, like those guys that are on a different level, like there's just something about it. It's the
Fun
factor, yeah. So
fun story about Lux.
yeah,
Or no, Kellenick, pardon me, Kellenick. Um, so Kellenick and McCoy were in AAA with the Mariners, and McCoy got the call, gets removed from a game. They say, "Go pack your bags to the hotel you're going." I think they were in Detroit that night, and gets back to the hotel. McCoy gets another phone call. You're not going. So Kellenick walks into the room, and McCoy's sitting on the bed going, "What in the?" And tells Kellenick what's happened. Kellenick just spins around and goes, "We're going to the bar."
it's really all you could do at that point, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, his head's spinning, like he
yeah,
just, yeah, his totally
yeah,
leaving. Now he's staying. I mean, yeah,
yep,
I need one to take the edge off.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for
Oh
sure.
man. That's great. Well, another game, I guess not another game, but a game that really sticks out to me is Quinn Priester was at Cary Grove as a sophomore, and high level arm that was on the,
Oh yeah,
popped on the radar early, and he was one of the most polished arms I had ever seen at that young age. And then like he's like 84, 87 his freshman year, and then the sophomore year, like it really popped. Like, he was like 89, 92 his sophomore year.
yeah.
Back when 92 was, I mean,
That was the eye opener.
yeah, like you see it way too often now. But no, and it was polished. He held velo. He had multiple pitches. So I go up there to see Cary Grove, and he's facing Bobby Miller at McDonald's.
Nice.
So that was probably one of the best pitching matchups that I had seen.
That's two
And
future big leaguers. You can't go wrong.
no, well, Bobby Miller's sitting there as a senior, pouring in strikes at like 92, 93, really electric stuff. But like I walked away being like, Quinn Priester is the best arm in the state, and he's a sophomore.
Yeah.
Because it was like the same, but he was a sophomore and it was easy and he could spin. He had a changeup. He also was a position guy and could run. Um, so that's one that really stood out to me. Blake Walters at the Super 60. And just Blake Walters in general, like his whole story
Yeah.
from Muhammad Seymour, the first time we saw him, 82, 84, and to see his progression, and then kind of like Nathan Lavender getting into the preseason All State. Anthony Silkwood was texting me,
So I was gonna say,
that winter leading into the Super 60, like, what are you guys basically like? What are you guys doing? This guy needs to be there, and he was
yeah,
right. So I think Walters was maybe like touching 94 in pens, but really throwing the slider. It's like, man, you need to get him there. Like, I think he'll touch a 95. He might have, I can't remember
yeah,
exactly what he said. But he goes there, and his very first pitch down the mound is 97.7. And that's the Super 60 record, and was kind of an unknown name. I mean, talk about
yeah,
rankings and me not knowing anything. I think we maybe had him like number 12 in the state at that time, and all these pro scouts were like, "Oh, you got this guy at number 12? Like, I want to see the 11, guys that are better than him." Just giving me grief. I'm like, dude, I didn't know he was going to be 97.7. So that was such a cool moment because you basically saw the guy make a couple $1 million in a bullpen,
yeah, 100%.
which is really crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Because all
By the
the
way,
all the big
quick shout out to Anthony Silkwood. One, he's a former Marine, but two, also an outstanding coach. He's going to be really good someday once he starts moving up the ladder.
Yeah, it was. We just reconnected the other day. He came up to the IHSBCA convention. He was actually speaking at it. Uh,
Nice.
so got to kind of reminisce on Blake.
Was he at John Wood when you were a DAC?
You know what? I don't know. As
He
a
would have been
pitcher,
there.
like a coaching or playing, because I didn't even know he went to John Wood.
He played at John Wood. I want to say it was 15, or well, you would have been gone by 15.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll never forget. We got into a chippy game down there, and the boys were like, "Oh, we might have to throw hands." And I was like, "Well, the kid at first is a former Marine, so have fun."
Don't mess with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go. Let's start
And
at
I'll
the
never forget. Silk
line.
looked over at me and he goes, "My shoulder's shot, man. I ain't fighting nobody."
I still wouldn't mess with him.
No, still.
He'd figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Marine. He's trained to kill.
But no, he's like you said, he does a tremendous job, and I've got a lot of respect for him. One of the best. There's a couple games that I remember watching that just really jump off the page at me, or to me. Super sectional, 4A super sectional at Lincoln Land. Probably back in like 2019, I would say, and that's just spitballing. I don't know when those guys were seniors, but it was Marist versus Edwardsville. Marist had a loaded club that year. Jack Brannigan, Justin
Yep.
Janis, who's tearing it up. Like he went to Illinois and
Yep.
he does his hit. They had Kendall Ewell, Jason Hodges. I know I'm missing some guy. Luke Sefcik might have been on that team as well.
I think so. Yeah.
Kevin's oldest son. But
Hmm.
Edwardsville was loaded as well. Like they had got Drake Westcott, just guys on guys on guys, and it was an unbelievable battle. We were watching the state final at
Yeah.
super sectional is basically what it felt like. Edwardsville went on to win. They went on to win state. But that game, the atmosphere, the back and forth, I think Westcott, I'm pretty sure I told Sefcik I wouldn't pitch to Westcott and pitched to him in the first inning and he went yard. But yeah, Westcott was one of the most feared hitters, to come through.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
That one sticks out to me. And then Lamont versus Nazareth, another playoff game that was at St. Lawrence. And just another battle. And Lamont had a really good club that year. And they were actually leading Naz by like 2 or 3 in the last inning. And Naz put together a rally. They were down to their last strike multiple times. They end up loading the bases with 2 outs. Lucas Smith, I think they're down one. Lucas Smith gets 2 strikes on him, 2 outs, grounds a ball through the left side, 2 run score. They end up winning, and Nazareth goes on to win the state title that year. And that was kind of their start to winning 2 straight. And gosh, they've rattled off like 40 some wins in a row at one point. So those are a couple games that really stand out to me. And I know I'm missing some others. I want to just see if there's anything else. Oh, we used to run an event in the fall in Springfield, at Lincoln Land, actually. We
Yep.
had the Capital City Open, we called it. And I'll never forget Briar Stinson.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that name, but he's
That's straight out of Rushville.
Rushville industry. I ended up going to Rushville to watch him play, that spring, to watch him for the future games. He was a sophomore, but really put together. And I just remember him putting on an absolute show in BP. I remember Torselli sitting in the dugout being like, who the heck is this guy? And just launching balls and like kind of put himself on the map at that event. So that's one that sticks out to me. I always had a soft spot for Briar, because that was pretty early on in me doing this as well.
Yeah. Well, and how can you not root for a kid from a town of 1,000? Like, that's literally one of the best players in the state. I mean, that whole story was insane.
Yep. Yep. And like had never heard of him before, didn't know.
No, yeah,
And to me, like those are the most beautiful stories. Guys that we don't know that pop up on the radar. I'll never forget Ben Hess. The first event he ever came to was like
yep,
freshman. Came to Peoria.
yeah. And you and I were burning up the phones
Yes,
to that.
and did I ever think he was going to be the #1 ranked player in the state and go to Alabama and do everything he's done? Like I didn't know that at the time, but I knew he was good.
But by the way, his facility record at K's has been broken. Won by Isaiah Jackson for the
Okay.
all-time record. Isaiah's running up to 100 this offseason, but the high school record now belongs to Cash Van Houten.
The 93 that he pumped in
The
there?
94, yeah,
It was 94.
yeah.
Yeah, I kind of got a peek of that. Well, and you want to talk about just another prospect coming out of like, I mean, Canton's not really known for producing a whole bunch of guys, and I think,
No,
man, I think Cash has a real chance. Like he does that on the mound, and I like it, right?
yeah,
I like him as a position guy too.
yeah, 100%.
I mean,
Yeah, like I,
he's a
if
two-way guy right now.
yes, that's what I was gonna say. Like somebody is gonna get doubled their value there just because he can do it all. 100%.
And that class is fun. Like there is a lot of guys in that class, in that 27 class. Mount Vernon's got a guy, Trevor McClure. I don't know how much
Yep.
you've seen of him, but
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
reminds me of Owen Murphy. So
Speaking of left-handers, my guy Chase Reinhardt was 88 the other day.
he's
That's coming too.
if there's any coaches out there that are gonna peek into this, like you need to be all over Chase Reinhardt. I'm a huge fan, even if you didn't tell me 88, like
Yeah.
he is a strike thrower. He is a low pulse guy on the mound. He does not show emotion. He competes. He was throwing quality varsity innings as a freshman. He's got 3 pitches. He's got a starter profile. It's only going to get better. I cannot say enough good things about Chase Reinhardt. And you better
And that
believe
slider is
he's on
just
that future
lethal.
games. He's on that future games watch list here, Ben.
Love
He'll
it.
be a guy we're checking in on for sure.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, David, you got anything else?
I know we're nearing the end here, and this kind of goes back, Drew, to your origin story. What took you from Purdue to PBR? And the question really, the underlying question is for those young men or women out there wanting to do what you do. And I know there's only a few openings, if not any,
Yeah.
at PBR for your crew and things. But to do what you do at PBR, what steps do people need to take? A young man, let's say 24, just finished, didn't get drafted, didn't get any tryouts, wants to stay in the game, wants to work for PBR. How do they take that next step? How do they get their foot in the door?
Well, I love it. If you look at our staff, 90% of them started as interns. If to me, intern in the summer. And that, that's for a college guy. And if you're out of college, you could still intern with us. But like, it is truly all about getting your foot in the door.
You
We
take
bring in
47-year-old interns.
Let's go. Like, I'm not going to turn down good people that want to work hard and love the game.
I'll
Like,
send you my resume after
yeah,
this.
I mean, if you can handle a little social media and taking video and doing all that and chopping up video and all the stuff that drives me crazy, no, we will take you. But interning to me is by far a no-brainer if you're looking to get into this. Regardless, we're going to teach you about scouting. That is at the lifeblood of what we do. We are a scouting company. Whether you're doing social media or data, like we're going to teach you how to scout. We want you to know the terminology. We want you to know what it looks like, all that stuff. So definitely cannot recommend that enough because we'll take 5 to 10 interns a summer. Some of them won't be the best. We try to do the best with our interview process as we can, but
Sure.
some don't turn out to be the best, some are okay, and then some are excellent. And we're looking for excellent. And the ones that are excellent, like Tyler Deffelball, Gavin Smith, Kevin Cronin, Maria Carley, um, who am I missing here in our crew? Josh Fields in Wisconsin, Nick DiBenedetto, they're all with us. And a lot of them have earned full-time status, and they all started as interns. Um, so to me, like that's really it. Like make sure you want to freaking work and live at a
Yeah.
baseball field. Because that's what it entails. Like to be a scout and to be a good scout, I don't know. I'll consider myself a scout in learning still, in training. I think you always are, but
100%.
you can only become better by putting in the hours. And by seeing players and by seeing good players, seeing average players, seeing bad players, constantly, young players, older players, and continuing to just sharpen that eye, and what it looks like. So, no, interning for sure. How did I get into it? It's always about a girl, right? So, uh, my wife and I, my current, my now wife, we met in Danville on a blind date. She was living in Champaign, working in Danville. Um, Started dating. I was in Danville for maybe a year or two before I went to Purdue. And when I went to Purdue, she took a job in Chicago. So we were doing long distance. It's
Yeah.
not easy. Not easy at all. So, at that point, it was kind of like, all right, what am I going to do? Am I going to keep bouncing around and trying to make this coaching thing work? Or am I going to try to get more serious with her and try to stabilize kind of that future? And I did see this opening. They had put something out. Sean had put something out. I think after trying to keep it like hush hush and get it like, a candidate without opening it up. But I saw it and I reached out to some people. I was like, hey, is this something that would be a good move? And ended up getting a call from Sean and going over there and talking to him at the Max. And man, he offered me a job, and it really made my decision on what to do for my future really easy. Like I knew what Prep Baseball Report was. Like I had used it in the coaching world. Like when I was coaching at Danville, I used it all the time. And then I actually used to go work PBR Indiana events with Phil Wade. Mitch Rosenthal was one of the first guys that ran it over there. And
Yep.
I would go over there, throw BP. I would run their, help run their top prospect games, just help out in the dugout. So like it was always something that intrigued me. I was like, oh, this kind of is pretty cool. Like you're still involved in baseball. You're helping kids get to the next level. You're communicating with all these college coaches. So it was kind of a natural fit. And yeah, I think that's the other beauty of it too. Like if you intern with us, if you just like let's say you're not in college and you're 40 and you want to come out, like reach out to us. It all starts with like, all right, just come out to an event and let's sit together at an event and just, like see what kind of feel you have, see if this is something you'd want to do and go from there. But the beauty of this job is the connections, like with high school coaches across the state, with travel coaches across the state, and then with college coaches from across the country, and even pro scouts, like, that's evolved over the years, but I feel like within our company, if you get in with our company, like you're gonna have any connection you're gonna want. Um, so yeah, that's and it's not an easy, it's not, anything in baseball, whether it's coaching in college or doing this, like you're gonna sacrifice. Like we sacrifice weekends. I don't think people realize like how many weekends we sacrifice and how many afternoons we sacrifice going to games and nights where I'm not putting my kid to bed. Um,
Weeknights in Peoria, Illinois.
Totally. Getting to hang with Ben and driving home in the middle of the dark, going through the back roads through Chillicothe and up through Henry and getting over to I-80 and making my way back up and trying to miss deer and all that stuff. And yeah, at midnight, pulling in, but it's
This
all
is the
worth it. I mean,
plot of
I deal
Tommy
with
Boy
baseball.
to traveling salesman driving around avoiding deer. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got you.
the deer that wakes up in the car and destroys the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many classic parts of that movie. The one that gets me is when he acts like he gets pulled over or whatever, and he acts like he's getting attacked by bees. Uh,
Yeah, little trick my dad taught me.
yeah, it's genius. Oh, but no, it's a great life, and it's a great company to work for. Like, man, if you are loyal to the company, Sean Duncan is the most loyal person out there. I can't thank him enough for what he's done for me, um, and kind of given me the keys here in Illinois, because like this was his baby.
This was the birthplace, man.
Huh?
This was the birthplace.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't take that lightly either. Like that's always kind of going through my head. Like, can't mess this up. Like I gotta
Yeah.
do it to the level that Sean wants it done, needs it done. We've got to lead the way for every other state out there. And whether we do or not, I don't know, but that's the goal. Like that's the
Yeah.
mindset. And our staff knows that here in Illinois. Like anybody that works in our crew, they know how much I care. They know the attention to detail and what we're trying to do here.
I personally, I think you guys do it better than just about every other state PBR there is. But this is the birthplace, and Dunk was supposed to be on with us tonight, and unfortunately, we couldn't make it work. But we'll have him on later. I just hope he has some of the original magazines. Like I would kill to get my hands on those.
We were talking about that the other day because we want to go back in and take the magazines and put the rankings into
Yeah.
online so you can go
Uh-huh.
back and see what they were in 2007.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah, we're gonna have to dig them up. I'm sure he has them somewhere.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
He's a former
That'll
journalist.
be
We
a
don't
fun
ever throw anything
interview.
away.
That'll be a fun interview when you get him on.
Yeah,
It was
100%.
awesome getting to reminisce with him. Gosh, when was we did it Monday? So is that yesterday?
Yeah.
That's the world I'm living in here. Yeah, we were able to reminisce over his 20 years of doing this and some of the best players that he came across, and it brought back so many memories. So
Guaranteed.
yeah, well,
Well, Drew Locascio, we can't thank you enough for coming on and giving us your time. Um, Appreciate the heck out of you, man, as always. And so thrilled that you're doing great up there. And now that I'm back in the college game, I will undoubtedly be blowing up your phone and asking for intel on what you saw.
well, that's awesome to
So,
hear. I'm happy for you. So yeah, do good things over there. Just take it easy on my Jaguars down in Danville. And no, I really appreciate you having me on and giving me this time. And thank you guys.
Thanks, Drew.
appreciate you. All right, folks, that's Drew Locascio from PBR. If you haven't attended a PBR event yet, what are you doing with your baseball life? Not enough. That's the answer.